Hello everyone, welcome to Zoho Sheet's webinar. I'm Jaya Shankari, the product marketer for Zoho Sheet, and I'll be the host for this session. So in this webinar, we are going to see what conditional formatting is, the types of conditional formatting options that are available in Zoho Sheet, and how you can use them to highlight and visualize your spreadsheet data. So let's get started. So this is the agenda for the webinar. So first, we'll have a brief look into Zoho Sheet, the product itself. And then we'll move to the topic for today's session, that is conditional formats. And then we'll look into the types of conditional formatting options that are available in Zoho Sheet. And finally, we'll jump into a product demonstration where I'll be showing you how this feature works inside the product. So why Zoho Sheet? For those of you who are not familiar with Zoho Sheet, it is an online spreadsheet application that provides you with a perfect blend of analytical features such as functions, charts, pivot tables, etc., and collaboration features such as sharing, real-time collaboration, commenting, etc. And all these basic and advanced features are provided free of cost without any restrictions. In Zoho Sheet, your files are saved on the cloud, which means you can work from anywhere using any device without being tied to one particular hardware device. And Zoho Sheet is also available on mobile applications, both on iOS and Android platforms. So you can work on the go. So coming to the topic for today's session, what are conditional formats? So conditional formats are nothing but those cell or text formats that you can apply based on a given condition or rule. So these formats can be used to highlight and visualize your data or even study data trends and patterns in your spreadsheet. And you can customize these formats based on your use case or even style. And these conditional formats are available even on Zoho Sheet's mobile applications, so you can view and create them on the go. So these are the three types of conditional formatting options that are available in Zoho Sheet. So the first one is classic. So in classic conditional formatting, the formats are applied on a cell or a range based on the given condition or rule. You can use classic conditional formatting for any data type such as text, number, or even a date. Next we have color scales. So color scales are nothing but a gradient of colors that can be used over a range of cells to study the data trend or change over a period of time. So usually color scales are used when there is a gradual change between the values in a range of data. And then finally we have icon sets. Icon set, as the name indicates, provides you with various icons with which you can represent your data for a better visualization. So now let's jump into the demonstration and see how these options work inside Zoho Sheet and how you can use them for your spreadsheet data. So this is the spreadsheet I'm going to use for this demonstration. So we have three worksheets here. I'll be using each for each type of conditional formats, that is classic, color scale, and icon sets. So first we look into classic conditional formatting. So in this sheet you can see that I have a task list here. So the first column has the status, second column has the description or title of the task, third has the priority of the task, that is low, high, or medium, and then we have the due date, that is when the task has to be completed, and finally we have the name of the owner, that is the person responsible to take care of that task. So in this task list, I'm not able to get an immediate attention or idea about which task is supposed to be taken care of immediately and which one can wait. So here, as you can see, we have a priority column, but still I'm not able to see which tasks are supposed to be taken care of at a glance. So for that, I'm going to highlight those tasks that have a higher priority using conditional formats. So let's see how we can do that. So I'm just going to select this range here, because I'm going to apply the conditional format on this particular cell range based on the value high. So now that I've selected the desired range, I'll go to format here on top, and then we have conditional formatting. So once I hover on conditional formatting, it displays the three types of conditional formatting options available. So I'm just going to select classic here. So this is the dialog that opens up once you click on classic. So here you can see that it gives me the options to customize the conditions or rules as well as the formatting options here. So once I click on the drop down, you can see the different types of data being displayed for me. So I can choose the data type based on the data I have on my cell or sheet. So similarly, based on the data type that is being selected, on the right you can find another drop down that gives you predefined rules or conditions based on the selected data type. So this way you can save a lot of time while creating conditions or rules. So now let's just take a look into each data type and see what options are being given by Zoho Sheet here. So the first one is the numerical data type. So here you can see that the predefined conditions are being listed for the numerical values. So you can highlight numbers which are between two values, or those that are greater than a specific value or lesser than a specific value, etc. And similarly, we have the text data type. So here you can see the predefined conditions for the textual data type. That is, you can highlight cells that contain a specific value or begin with a specific letter or word. And then we have date. You can also highlight cells that contain a date that is between two values, or that is before a specific date, on a specific date, or a month, or etc. So this way you can even highlight those cells that contain a date format. And there's another option here that gives you the ability to highlight duplicate values, unique values, errors, or even blank cells in your content. So this way you can highlight and find out the duplicate or errors in your spreadsheet data using conditional formats. And finally, we have an option called formula. So if you're looking for something other than the predefined conditions or rules given, you can very well come here and write a personalized formula as a rule or condition. So now that I'm going to highlight the cells containing the value high, I'll just take the text data type here because my cell range has textual data type. And yes, my condition is going to be contains and the value is high. So those cells which contain the value high will get this format. So now that the condition is set, I'm going to change the format. So as you can see, we have various text and cell formats given. You can use these options to change the background color and font color, etc. Or you can click on this preview drop down here and you will get a list of predefined styles you can use. So now I'm just going to take this red background so it grabs more attention. It tells me that the task is of high priority. So once that is set, I'll click on OK. So as you can see in this cell range, those cells containing the value high are being highlighted with the given format. So this way I'll know which tasks are supposed to be completed immediately and which ones can wait. So now that I know which tasks are of high priority, I'm not able to find those tasks that are done already and those that are still pending. So I'm not able to see them at a glance. So for that, I'm going to create a conditional formatting based on these checkboxes here. So let's see how we can do that. So I'll just go to conditional formatting here. And before we create another classic format, I'll just open the manage dialog here. So this is the manage conditional formatting dialog, from which you can see all the rules that you have set in a particular worksheet or even a spreadsheet. And you can find options here to either duplicate the rule, edit, or even delete it. So down here you can also see that there's an option to create the conditional formats too. So I'm going to click classic here. So you can either select the range before opening the dialog, or you can also open the dialog and then select the range you want to apply the format on. So now I'm going to apply the format on this whole data range here, because I want the format to be applied on the whole data record and not a single cell. So now that I've selected the range, I'll move on to the condition. So as I previously said, I'm going to write this condition based on the checkboxes in column A. So as you can see here, we don't have a data type for checkboxes, so I'm going with a formula here. So I'm going to write a formula in such a way that whenever a checkbox is checked, this particular format will be applied on that particular data record. So now I'm starting to write the formula here. So if this cell, that is the cell containing the checkbox, is true meaning that if it is checked. So now this formula says if that particular cell or the checkbox is true, that is if it is checked, then this particular format has to be applied on that particular data record, that is from B3 to E3. Now that we have written the formula, I'm just going to make a small tweak to it. Some of you must be already familiar with the types of cell references. So that is relative and absolute cell references. These are mostly used in formulas and functions. So here, as you can see, A3 here is a relative cell reference. That is both the column reference and the row number will change according to the current cell. So now you can see that the checkboxes are present only in column A and not in column B or C. So I don't want the column reference to change at all. So for that, I'm just going to change the column reference into absolute cell reference. So for that, I'm just going to add a $sign before the column reference. So as you can note, I have not added a $sign before 3 because 3 is the row number and I want the row number to change according to the current cell. So that is the format of this data record here will be based on A3. Similarly, the format for this data record here will be based on A4, and likewise it will move on to the next row numbers and the column will stay constant. So now that we have written the formula here and the condition is set, let's go to the formatting section. So now I'm going to customize the format completely. So I'm going to clear the format first and then start creating. So here's an option to clear it completely. So I'll clear the formatting options and then I'm going to set strike through. I'm going to give a gray background to the cell and also a gray font color. So now that the condition is set, the formatting options are also customized. I'm going to click on OK. So as you can see on the left, those cells which have the checkbox checked have a formatting applied, that is a gray color indicating those tasks are already completed and the remaining are yet pending. So once you click on the checkbox, that particular data record will have this format applied on it. There's another tiny feature in the Manage Conditional Formatting dialog that you can use. That is when you have multiple conditional formatting rules that are applied on the same cell range, you can reorder them in the Manage Conditional Formatting dialog to change the order of application. Here, the conditional formats are applied in an order that is from top to bottom. So first, this rule is applied, that is with the red cell background, and that gets overridden by the second rule at the bottom, that is having the gray background. So on the left, you can see that this cell has the first rule applied, and the cell above, though it has the value high, it has the second rule applied on it because that rule is at the bottom. So now I'm just going to reorder these rules and we'll see what happens. So I'm just going to push this rule on top. And yes, on the left you can see that both the cells containing high have the red cell background. So now you can see that the rule with the red background is overriding the other rule. So this helps you manage multiple conditional formatting rules on the same cell range. Okay, let's move to color scales now. So this is the data I'm going to use for color scales. As you can see, it has a stats of monthly signups, and so we have the months here, and then the sources from where the signups occurred, and then we have the total signup here. Now I'm going to apply color scales to see the changes or the pattern of change in the total monthly signups. So I'm just going to select this range here. I'll go to Format, Conditional Formatting, and then Color Scale. So on hovering over Color Scale, you can see that it opens up a palette with various color scales given. So in Zoho Sheet, we have two types of color scales. There is a 2-color scale and a 3-color scale. A 2-color scale can be used when you have a minimum point and a maximum point, while a 3-color scale can be used when you have a minimum point, a midpoint value, and a maximum point value. So now in this data, I have only a minimum value and a maximum value and not a midpoint. So I'm going with a 2-color scale now. So I'm just going to choose a 2-color scale, that is from yellow to green. So the minimum point or the minimum value will have the yellow background, and the maximum point or the maximum value will have the green background. So I'll select that. And as you can see, the cell with the minimum value has the yellow background set, and the cell with the maximum value has the green background set, while the other cells have the shades. So this makes it easier for me to know which month performed well and which did not. Now let's just open up the color scale dialog and see how the rules have been set. So this is the color scale dialog. As you can see, the minimum and maximum values have been set to automatic because I chose from the menu directly. If you want, you can even customize these minimum and maximum points, and they can also be in terms of number, percentage, formula, or even a percentile value. So Zoho Sheet also gives you the option to choose the color for your color scale, so you can even customize those colors in the scale. And additionally, you can find two other options here at the bottom. So one is to hide the cell content. So once this option is checked, the cell values in this range will be hidden and only the cell background color will be displayed. And there's another option here called automatic text color. So once I click on that, the cell font color will change based on the cell's background color. So to demonstrate that, I'll just make a small change in the cell background. So let's say we'll set it from white to say black. So now you can see that the font colors in this cell range are all black. So now that I've set the background color from white to black, let's see how this font color changes based on the automatic text color option. So I'll click on apply now. And as you can see, those cells with the dark background color have a lighter font color. That is, the cell with a black background has a white font color, and so on. So this option increases the readability of cell values when these background colors are applied. So that's all about color scales in Zoho Sheet. Let's move on to icon sets. So this is the data I'm going to use for icon sets. So we have the list of months, and then the net turnover of a year, and the net turnover of the next year, and then we have the change in net turnover in terms of millions. So now to see which months performed better than the previous year and which months did not, I'm going to apply icon sets on this particular cell range. So let's see how we can use that. So I'm just going to select this cell range first, and I'll go to format, conditional formatting. So on hovering, you can see the various icons that are provided, but I'm going to customize the rule for the icon set, so I'm not going to choose from the menu directly. I'll click on icon set. So this is the icon set dialog, and here you can see there's a drop down here. So once you click on that drop down, it displays all the icon sets that are available in Zoho Sheet. You can choose from that. So now I'm going to go for the 4-arrow set. So I'll choose that. So once I chose the 4 arrow sets, you can see that this section here, which has the conditions or the rules, changes automatically. And here on the right side, you can see there's a data type section. And so now I'm going to set my rules based on the numbers that are present in the cell range. So I'm going to change the data type to number for each icon. So once I've set the data types, I'll move on to the next section here. So you can see there's a section called rules, where you can set the actual condition you want to set, and then we have a field called values here, so you can enter the numbers or values you want. So now I'm going to change the rule here. So here, so for those cells which are having values that are lesser than -1, I want the red downward arrow to be used, and similarly for those cells that are having values that are between -1 and 0, I want the yellow downward arrow to be used. And then for those cells that have values between 0 and 1, I want the yellow upward arrow to be used. And for those cells containing a value that is greater than or equal to 1, I want the green upward arrow to be used. So I have specifically set rules or conditions for each of the icon here in this set. So now that my condition is done, you can see there are some additional options at the bottom. So the first one is reverse icon order. So once this option is chosen, the order of these icons listed will get reversed. That is, for those cells that are containing values greater than and equal to 1, the red downward arrow will be used. And for those cells that have values lesser than -1, the green upward arrow will be used, and so on. And then there's a second option called hide cell content. So this option is similar to what we saw in color scales. That is, the cell values in that particular range will be hidden and only the icons will be displayed. So I'm just going to choose this option here to see how that works. And finally, we have another option called keep default icon size. So when this option is chosen, the icon size will not change even when the font size of a particular cell is changed. So even if you're changing the font size of a particular range, the icons will stay the same size if you choose this option. So now I've set the conditions, and then I've chosen the hide cell content option here. So now I'm going to click on OK. So as you can see, the values in this cell range are hidden and only the icons are displayed. So now let me just unhide those cells to get a clear idea about these icons now. So I'll just uncheck this option and click on OK. Yeah, so now we have the cell values and the icons displayed. So as you can see, for those values that are greater than 1, the green upward arrow is used. For those values lesser than -1, the red downward arrow is used. For those between -1 and 0, the downward yellow arrow is used, and for those between 0 and 1, the upward yellow arrow is used. So this is the condition I had set, and you can see them being applied here. Now in this manage dialog, you can also get a quick glance of the rule you have set. Let's just hover over the eye icon here and it will give you the rule that you have set in that particular conditional format. So it makes it easier for you to know what kind of rule you have set in that particular format. So this is all about conditional formatting in Zoho Sheet. If you have any questions or feedback, you can drop us an email anytime at support@zohosheet.com and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And if you have any feedback about this webinar, please do drop them as comments below this video. Thank you for joining me in this webinar. Thank you.